This is the story Mrs. Pigwiggle's Won't Pick Up Toys Cure by Betty McDonald and illustrated by Bruce Watley, and it's adapted from the Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle books. There's Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle and her cat and her dog. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle lives here in our town. She has brown sparkly eyes and long brown hair, which she usually wears in a knot on the top of her head. She has a dog called Wag and a cat called Lightfoot. But the most remarkable thing about Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle is that her house is upside down. All the children love Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle, and Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle loves them. In fact, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle just naturally understands children, which is, of course, why all the parents call Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle whenever their children are being difficult. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle always knows exactly what to do to help cure children's bad habits, like not picking up toys, which was Hubert Prentice's bad habit. Hubert was a very lucky boy whose grandfather always sent him wonderful toys for his birthday. Hubert had an electric train with a track that went 4 times around his bedroom. He had a great big wagon full of blocks, and he had 1,500 toy soldiers. He had a wooden circus, a fire engine with real sirens and lights, and so many books that he had to have 2 bookcases in his room. Hubert liked all his toys, and he generally shared them with his friends, but he never put them away. When Hubert's mother would tell Hubert to pick up his toys, all he ever did was stuff them under his bed or in the closet. Mrs. Prentice was getting tired of picking up all of Hubert's toys by herself. I hope you never do that to your mothers. One rainy day, Hubert invited his friends over to play. They took out every one of Hubert's toys and played with them all afternoon. Then they went home for dinner and didn't put a single toy away. The next time Mrs. Prentice opened the door to Hubert's room, she just looked and looked. Then she went downstairs and called Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle and Wags. When Mrs. Prentice told Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle about Hubert's toys, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle said, "I think that the best thing for you to use is my old-fashioned won't pick up toys cure. Starting right now, don't pick up any of Hubert's toys. When his room becomes so messy he can't get out of it, call me." So Mrs. Prentice didn't pick up any of Hubert's toys. She baked a chocolate cake instead, and she did not say a word to Hubert about his toys when Hubert's friends came over to play. The next morning when Hubert came down for breakfast, there was a little pan of paint from his watercolor paint stuck in his hair. Hubert's mother did not say anything. Happy-O's for breakfast. He doesn't look like he slept very well, does he? The next morning, Hubert looked as though he hadn't slept very well. The morning after that, Hubert had 2 pans from his paint set stuck in his hair, and he had a red mark on his cheek that was the shape of one of his blocks. Hubert's mother thought he must have slept on it. On the 7th day, Hubert didn't come out of his room at all. At 11 o'clock, his mother got worried and called Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. "Hubert must be trapped in his room," said his mother. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. "Wait until he calls for food, and then Put a piece of dry bread with peanut butter on the garden rake and poke it through his window. He'll have to drink out of the hose. When Mrs. Prentice hung up the telephone, she heard Hubert shouting, "Mother, I'm hungry." She got a crusty piece of bread, spread some peanut butter on it, and took it around to the side of the house. Soon, a hand and an arm appeared at Hubert's window. The hand found the bread, grabbed it off the rake, and then banged the window shut. That night, Hubert's mother stuck his meat and potato and vegetables on the rake, and his father pushed the hose through the window. It took Hubert a long time to reach the window. Here's his dinner on the rake. The next day, around 2 o'clock, Hubert heard music and the children's voices laughing and calling from outside. When he finally managed to look out the window, he saw Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle and all his friends, and right behind them came a circus parade. "Hurry, hurry, Hubert," called Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. "We are all marching to the circus." Still got paint in his hair. That must be their view from outside looking in. But Hubert couldn't get out of his room. There were too many train cars and blocks and toy soldiers and books in the way. He could hear the music getting farther away, and he began to cry. Then he heard a tap at his window. It was the rake with a note on it. "Dear Hubert, the only way to get out of that trap is to put everything away where it belongs. If you hurry, we will wait for you. Your friend, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle." Hubert put away his blocks, his train cars, his paints, his circus, and his books. He made his bed and put away his toy soldiers. He was just putting away his very last toy when he heard the music again. He put the toy in the box, put the box in the closet, tore down the stairs, and out the front door. Look how beautiful his room looks now. Wow. There they came, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle and all the children and the circus. Hubert ran out to meet them, and away they went down the street, with Hubert carrying the flag and yelling the loudest, and no one said anything at all about the pan of orange paint stuck in his hair. So don't forget to clean your rooms. Don't get stuck in your rooms while you're home all this time. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.